coach there, turned into be the defensive coordinator at UL before he was at Southeastern, and was with Billy Napier. I guess he was the head coach for a long time. A little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you ready to?
Hey man, fire away.
All right, we're live already. So. Yeah, sorry, right. No warning, just jumping right into it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess start off with your name and a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. Do you want me to look at you?
Yeah. I think you just look at us like it's a normal
Okay,
conversation.
cool. Reed Falkner, and I operate and manage Falkner Farms, and I'm from Oxford, Mississippi.
Cool. Yeah. And I guess so. You run a cattle farm.
That's right.
Primarily for the purpose of manufacturing like beef.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah.
Just about like what your operation entails.
So, that's right. Yeah. So we run grass-fed beef cattle farm. So we're grass-fed and grass-finished, and primarily we run Angus cattle. So our cows are here and they rotate on pastures. We do an intensive job of grazing and managing how we use them and the lands to have enough forage and that type of thing. We also have chickens. So our beef, back to beef, it's for consumption purposes. So we sell through retail outlets with grocery stores and farmers markets and wholesale options from people who come out to the farm and pick beef up. So that's our cattle side of it. The chickens, man, I have egg layers. So I don't do meat birds, but I do have egg layers. So they're pasture raised. They live outdoors year round. They're rotated around too. They fit into our system of management, if you will, and we sell those as well for consumption to consumers.
As someone who knows like nothing or very little about like cattle, when you say like Angus cattle, like what is that?
Yeah, it's a type of breed.
Okay.
So you have different breeds, and so we prefer the Angus cattle due to dimensions of their body and framework and that type of thing, and their beef quality.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And what's the reasoning for like grass fed versus just like feed? If you want to
man,
expand
good question.
on that.
Right, yeah, and that's something that's kind of come up in topic. Are you grain fed or you grass fed? Okay, and so a lot of times growing up, you're raised on just steaks, right? Beef, hamburger, whatever it might be, not knowing what it is. For us, we made a switch. We've always had cattle. We had never always done this type of business that we've run now. But when we started getting into producing beef for consumers, we wanted to give them the best quality beef that they could have, along with health implications and just knowing what they're getting when they get our beef. So it's not grain fed. I don't pick up a feed sack and feed them, and if you want to dial it back, I don't know where the feed came from or who produced the feed or what was in it. When you come to us, we just have grass fed, grass finished, and you can see the cattle. You can see what they're eating and what they're doing, and so that kind of solidified it for us. And two, you're able to better manage. In my opinion, you can better manage your land by understanding how much they're eating, where they've been, where we're going to, what the cows are doing off of the grasses available, and that type of thing. So our management style fits it as well.
Yeah, I imagine if they're not grass fed, then you have no incentive to really look after the land apart from if you just value the land itself, and so it just becomes anything, right?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, our whole operation kind of boils down to managing livestock and managing the land, and so they go hand in hand for us. So you're exactly right.
Yeah, and you mentioned a little while ago, you said you'd been doing this full time for 4 years.
Yep. Yeah.
And so before then, it was just part time, and like, when did you like really start like doing the farming? Because I know you were brought up here.
Yeah.
Was it like since a kid, or?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've always lived on the farm. So I mean, we've had cattle, we've had horses, back to cattle, chickens, and I've always been around it. So I learned, work ethic out here. I learned just a sense of identity that came with it in my upbringing, and So I left here, went to school, went to Delta State, go Okra, and so from there I came back, and when I was back in between work, I was part-time. I was always helping out. On a family farm, you're always around. If you can do something, you just lend a hand. And I jumped out of that and coached football locally at a high school for a couple of years. And when COVID came around, about a year before that, I was here full-time. So I've always been in the mix here and there, and so really grabbed the reins about 4 years ago.
How long has the farm and all of its land, I guess, been in your family's?
So my folks bought this property probably about 25 years ago. So we've been here for that time, and always had, like I said, we've had cows or horses, just some type of livestock down there the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And even before that, I mean, we were living at a different house in town or whatever. We had rental land with cows on it or something. I mean, it's always been around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, did you ever like see yourself or like want to become like a farmer?
I never saw it, man. You could ask friends and whatnot. That's today, I can't believe you're doing that now. And I mean, I get it. I had different dreams of what I thought life would be for me and what my career might be, but life has a funny way of shaping it for you, and you just kind of choose a path as it molds out and help create it.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't always see myself in this seat, but now that I am here, man, I wouldn't do anything different.
Yeah.
Really wouldn't.
Was there like a singular defining moment where you're like, this is what I am meant to do? Or
I mean, it's always been a topic of conversation. With my wife, I remember we were kind of, in the transition of changing jobs or looking at different careers, and, we had a couple of them laid out, and pros and cons, the whole shebang. And for the farm, it was just like follow a dream, and so that's as honest as I can be, and that's kind of put me there. So that was kind of a moment, and the other things fell through or just didn't line up like we thought they would, and man, this was always here. So that's kind of how it came about.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very much. It was not what you were intending to do, but that's how it worked out. And
and
for the
man,
best.
I'll tell you, in hindsight, it's always 20/20, but you just kind of look back at that moment and where we are now with, what we've been working hard at, and it's kind of coming to fruition. So it's cool to see that.
And so your parents were very much like, I guess, did they, like all the cattle and the chicken, did they do that for a living? Like, were they farmers or?
No, so my dad, he was a nursing home administrator. He retired after 32 years.
Okay.
And my mom was real estate and on campus and that type of thing in that scene. But my dad, he's always, in his background, yes, he's always dealing with cattle or some type of livestock. And so he had dairy cattle, beef cattle, and so he's the one that's always kind of had them around. And that's kind of where I learned about him and my background starts. But no, it wasn't their deal either. It was just kind of a hobby for them that they really liked. He really liked to do. So
I imagine that like influenced like your decision, because if you had never grown up in that.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, if I had no idea a background about it, I wouldn't see myself doing it now. But what's interesting is, his, things change over time, and so his way of how he was brought up working cattle and his background and knowledge, the knowledge still applies, but now I can kind of take my, understanding of it and what we're trying to do now, pushing forward. It's a good blend. I mean, it's really, really helpful with his experience and what we're trying to go.
So, as far as since the cows are grass fed, like what's the system look like for like moving them around? Is there like a whole quadrant set up?
Yeah, man, great question. I mean, we have a system that we designed and really mapped it out and planned it well, where they have different, we call them paddocks. So out there we've got 4 or 5 fields, and each field has particular paddocks that we rotate into. So all the paddocks are different sizes, so we know based on the forage, how long they stay there, and it's all mapped out as far as where we're going to go to next. And the whole deal with that is we're trying to give that ground enough rest and time to recover to come back and promote, healthy grasses and sustained forages and that type of thing. So yeah, it's a mapped out system. It'll change, due to weather. Some places, don't drain as well, so we don't want to run there. So we have some safety lots and stuff like that kind of built in place for it.
Have there been any blunders or mess ups where it's like, oh man, we kind of messed up here, maybe we should have, or like, what was was there a learning process?
Yeah, there's always a learning curve, and the cows always get out, so that's a joke my wife will tell you, but no, I mean, there is, yeah, I mean, the thing about what we're doing is nothing's ever the same, whether it be the weather, whether it be the forage height, whether it be whatever it might be, hay situation, number of head you got out there. So everything's always changing, so you can always learn from it. So through these years, yes, we have adapted and learned and taken what we've observed to note down to not make that same thing again happen. And also when you do something like that, you mess up or you say, man, I could have done that better. Well, you can fix ways around that area to try to help improve it or resustain it. How you like to see it.
I like how you said like nothing is ever the same, and I don't think, especially when you're working with like live animals that have wants and needs, that everything should always be the same, because you have to cater to your animals and whatnot. So
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it drastically changed. I mean, you just every day presents a challenge that sometimes you've seen and sometimes you hadn't. So you just keeps you on your toes, for sure.
You mentioned earlier when we were talking that you sell your meat to grocery stores as well. Like which grocery
That's
stores?
right.
I imagine it's probably not like Walmart or.
No, I tell you what, we're not Walmart. Almost were in Kroger at one point in time. When COVID, we talked a little bit before. When COVID came around, there was such a need for just food in general. And so you had these bigger corporations willing to reach out to smaller local farmers to be able to supply, their customers and keep their business going. So that was in talks at one point, but no. Grocery stores, I'm in Chicory Market, which does a phenomenal job. John and Kate do a great job supporting local farmers and just really working with you. We're in there, and we're also in Larson's Cash Saver, which is it's just a locally owned grocery store right across from Obie's. They have a great customer base locally, and they do a good job too. It's Larson's and being able to get in there. So eggs and ground beef are in both of those places. And there's a new little fresh market on the west side of town, West Oxford Loop, called Local Honey, and Jeffrey Hollis is owning and running that. And, he's also kind of providing a niche little market on that side of town too. So. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you just rattled off like 5 different names that I've never heard.
Yeah, I know, I'm over name dropping.
Yeah, but like that's kind of like the point, is that like when it's local, it's about like community, and it becomes more about like just like the product, and you get to know people and make
That's right, man. It is so much like that, and that's the side that I never see really occurring like it has. But the relationships you build with these people, whether it be grocery stores or restaurants or just farmers markets, just community itself, it really is a cool opportunity to meet people, and you're there to sell your product, sure, but you get to educate them on what you do, but at the same time you get to understand them and build that relationship with those people too. So it's really a cool side of the business that gets you off the farm too, and out. So yeah, it's pretty neat.
You mentioned the cows getting out. As in like escaping the. Do you have like a specific story?
Yeah, we've got some cows out here, man. They're athletic. They're pretty athletic. So what we do is we run these paddocks I was talking about. They're hot wire. Okay, so it's solar panel energy and it's electricity. Okay, and so these cows, they learn to respect it. I mean, and they just know that as a boundary. But some of them, the grass is greener on the other side in their eyes, and they'll jump it. I mean, they'll jump. And so I remember I had to sell one cow. It's a great steer is what it was. It wasn't a cow, it was a steer. And man, it was a phenomenal animal, and it would jump over. I would put 3 or 4 strands up, and it was just was athletic. So, but yeah, it's just a joke. Like I get a call, all the cows are out. It's just like, oh, here we go, babe.
In my mind, that's like a selling point.
Yeah.
It's like, look how athletic my
Look at
cows
these,
are.
yeah,
This
these
is good
cows
meat.
are grass.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. They're grass.
That's what happens when they're grass fed. They just start
Yeah.
jumping over buildings.
But it's yeah. So that'll happen every now. I mean, it's occasional, you know, if you get something like that. But for the most part, it doesn't happen too often.
So before, you know, really like running this farm full time and whatnot, were you really plugged into like the local community food scene, or was that something that came along with farming?
No, it definitely came along with farming. Definitely. I mean, being from here and just kind of knowing different people in the community, sure you have some type of relationship with just individuals, not necessarily related to the food industry. But no, when I got into farming, and then when I started pushing our product out there a little bit more, I was able to reach out and meet different people. And you know, sometimes it's just like any other business, you're trying to sell what you have, right? And so trying to crack into new markets, it takes you going out there and introducing yourself to people and having meetings with things. And you know, sometimes it doesn't go as well as you thought it might go, right? You didn't get to get this or that, but you still establish a relationship with somebody, and that you're in the same niche market, if you will, together. So you know, it's something that's just because it weren't in there at this point in time doesn't mean it can't circle back just because of a relationship with people, you know.
So there, I imagine there was a learning curve there as well with
Oh,
just the
yeah.
whole, apart from like the actual like farming and raising the cattle, having to like run a business
Yeah.
and actually market yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
it all comes into play. I mean, there's a lot of learning curves on all spectrums, whether it be on farm or or putting yourself out there in the marketing scene, and then you know adjusting, you know, setting your prices based on reports, and I mean doing your books, and I mean it's a whole business that you're introduced to, and like you said, like there's mistakes here or there, so you just clean it up along the way.
Yeah, it's like people go to school to get degrees in that. So I guess I'm just like trying to understand
Yeah.
how like in
That's
just
right.
4 years you've managed to
That's
get
right.
this thing going. It
Yeah.
seems pretty incredible to me.
That's right, they do. And I did not go to school for that, and I did not get a master's in that. But you know, just understanding what you have on your farm and the cost of different things, and understanding, you know, I've got to have X, Y, and Z to do this. I mean, you can get a feel for it, and then I mean, it's just how well is it received with the consumer. You know, I mean, you're going to always hear that this is too high, or this is too low, or I can't believe, you know, that's where you're at. But man, it's, for me, my price point is on the quality of work and the quality of product, and those two, I know what those are. So, but yeah, the business side, man, it's a it's a learning curve, man.
You had any thoughts on like expanding the business in terms of like not just chicken, eggs, and cattle, but like maybe other livestock or?
Yeah, I have, and what I wanted to do from the very beginning was to form an identity for the business. Okay, so we know beef, right? We know cows, and we've gotten really good, well versed at chickens. Okay, so we got really good at what we're trying to do, and then let's try to maximize that volume. And so that's where we are in our phase of expansion. You know, we had a goal to get to 1,200 chickens last year, and we're at it. This year we've got a goal to grow our herd of mama cows so we can keep bringing in beef and steers and having things like that. So we've acquired rental land, and that's where all our cows are right now. So that's this year's goal, which is coming up, which we've worked to hit and have almost hit. So yeah, next year, the only thing I would not want to do is to just get outside of a realm that I'm not comfortable with, just to have another product. Okay, just to have, oh, he's a regenerative farm, he does X, Y, and Z. Well, I don't want to fit in that box. I want to get what I know and what I can provide that's, you know, really quality product to consumers, and go there first. But yeah, expansions are there, thoughts are there, and we're working at it, but it's just kind of our pace of, you know, comfort, and man, we're calculating, try to be calculated.
That's smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
To 1,200 chickens. That's a lot of.
Well,
That's a lot of chickens. I
There's
mean,
a lot of birds out there, yeah.
I guess for the operation you got going on, that's seems about right. But I guess now I really think about it, that's a lot of chickens.
Yeah,
So
man.
how many cattle do you have?
So we've got 42 head of cattle. And so I'm at 20 mama cows, and I'd like to be at 40 come at the year's end. And then from that, we can, how that process works is, your mama cows have calves, and so you're either going to have a bull calf or a little heifer calf. And so how you grow your herd is you would keep heifers, your girl calves, and raise them up, and they would turn into mama cows. And so that process, would take time. But that's one way to, save money, cut on cost, grow your herd steadily. You know what the genetics are, versus, just going out to a market or a sale and just picking up some mama cows just to say I want to have this number. So, yeah, the cattle are growing. We've got 2 bulls, and we try to finish around 30 head a year, finished beef. So.
So you've got 42 right now. I guess some of those will be slaughtered by the end of the year.
Yeah, we're coming up on the end of it. We usually keep. We've tried to hit a number this year per month, and we've done a good job with that. So we've got this month and next month, and that'll finish it up. It's harder to finish cattle if you're grass-fed in the wintertime, just because there's not a lot of grass. So there's a transition period here. You're planting cool season grasses in September, October, and so there's about a 60 to 90 day window before you start grazing that again. So there's a little window here of dial back as far as being able to put pounds on cattle in these 2 months. But yeah, so it'll wind the year down here in a little bit, and yeah, we'll kick it back up come January. It's not a lot of downtime, believe it or not.
That's something I always forget about, and I guess this just goes to show the disconnect between the food and the consumer. But that, like, during the winter, maybe there's not as much grass.
Yeah.
Have you ever, like, messed up and been like, we don't have enough grass, we have to resort to feed? Or is that classified information?
No, that's a good question. Yeah, no, we won't. So what we'll do is we'll start feeding hay. We'll start feeding hay around this time. If you have enough land, right, which is always the holdup for anything. If you have enough land, you'll be able to graze. They call it stockpiling grass. So you just kind of let grass grow. You don't touch it, and cattle will come through and forage on what they want to do. So we'll switch to hay to answer your question, and we'll plant cool season grasses, and we'll start grazing those around into January, February, depending on how the season goes. So yeah, no, if we don't have enough beef for wholesale or retail, then we will just kind of slow the process down and then kick it back up, when it's time that we have something ready. And 2, like, with what we do as far as selling our meat, we'll have a wholesale option. So individuals will call for half or a whole cow, okay? And they'll be able to custom cut how they want their beef, okay? And you can get hamburger, steaks, roast. There's a whole section that they just go through and fill out, and they'll pick it up when it's ready. However, it seems like trends-wise, right, with businesses, in November, December, January, the markets kind of slow down, so the sales slow down, and those wholesale options slow down a little bit. So it just kind of times up to where we don't have as much beef ready in those times, and the consumers aren't needing as much at that time too. So kind of lately it's worked out.
Yeah, I guess I forgot hay bales existed for a second.
You can't always. They'll forage on it, right? It might just be roughage. It might not, really put pounds on it. But it is something to maintain until those cool season grasses, winter grasses kick in.
Imagine if you let the grass grow, and then even if it does die in the winter, it's still there, and it
That's
still
right.
has that value.
The nutrition's still there, all that's still there, and it's kind of the same. It's kind of like hay in a sense, right? You just cut the hay and bale it up, whereas it's still in the roots and stuff like that for the stockpile grass. So.
How, when you slaughter one of your cattle, how many pounds of beef do you get from that?
Dude, that's a good question. So you have a live weight. How the process goes, right, is there's a live weight, and that's kind of for us to know. Just we want to know how much it weighed and what it looked like, and that way we can better, observe future beef, coming up. But there's a live weight, hoof weight, and then when you take it to the processor, they'll give you a hanging weight. And so the hanging weight is, after they take hide off, and it's just like you see in movies, right? It's just a meat locker. It's just hanging. And so that right there, the typical scale that a butcher will tell you is that you're going to get 50% of your live weight. Okay, so say hoof weight was 1,200 pounds, your hanging weight's 600 pounds. What the consumer or whoever got the beef, us, whatever, would be about 50% of that too. So it's 300 pounds of beef out of a cow. However, we like to think we can do better, right? We like to think that we can get maybe 55 to 60% hanging weight because of the amount of fat on the cow, or how well we grazed it and raised it up. And from there, we'd have a higher yield rate. So the typical is 50-50, right? So, 600 pounds hanging, 300 pounds of beef. We would like to go 55-60 on both of those. So get about 350 pounds back on that live weight.
So you've got all of that like data somewhere from all of
Mm-hmm.
your past cows,
Mm-hmm.
like in a big spreadsheet? Or?
That's right. Yep.
Cool.
I inventory it all. We get the beef back. They'll give you a slip of how much you got of each cut, just a quantity, right? And so I'll take the weights and we'll put all that in a spreadsheet so I can analyze, what the hanging weight was, what the yield weight was, what I'm getting from each section of the cow, and that gives me an analysis, right, of how well we're grazing and finishing these beefs off. So it can get as detailed as you want it to get.
Yeah, that's super interesting because if you're gonna try and increase the meat yield on the cow from 50 to 55%,
yeah.
like what does that look like? I guess is like taking better care of the cow and.
Yeah, I mean it's all in the grass, man. It really is. So what it looks like is if I'm looking at this cow, I'm gonna look at the brisket, right, which is it's got its front legs just hanging down right beneath its sheath and its neck. That's a brisket. That's an indicator. If you can see a brisket's full, you're like, okay, that cow's getting ready. And in the tail of the cow, it's got these two fat palms that kind of size up. They're just like little fat balls is what it kind of looks like. And so you can tell by those two indicators, and then just the fleshiness of the cow or the steer, whatever it might be, you can really tell like that one's finished. It's going to hang 55. It's going to yield just off of the years we've been in it and just running analysis on some stuff.
What's the highest you've ever had?
Man, of a yield, we've hung upwards mid 60s and yielded right around low 60s before. So we've put some good product out there, and you just know. I mean, the thing with that the side of the business is you have to set these dates for the processor. So we'll set them for a year out, and we'll just say, okay, this date, end of the month, is kind of our time, and we'll set however many we're trying to do. So the question from the operating side of it is, okay, I've got to finish out 4 cows this month. Okay, when that time comes, do you have 4 cows ready? Well, you look at your indicators, you're trying to see the cow, you size it up, see what you're going to get. Okay, I've got 3, but this one's not quite fully ready. All right, and so you have that decision, okay, do we want to keep it for another month and eat into your cost, or you want to, let it go and hit the 50-50 mark, or so. There's just different sides there that hit needs that you got to meet. But yeah, if we're gonna graze it out and finish it, ideally, yeah, those are kind of our numbers.
Because I know you mentioned that becoming a farmer is kind of transformed like just your perspective and your role in like the community, like at the local level.
Yeah.
Has it like drastically changed or transformed the way you eat in like your day-to-day diet, or?
Man, yeah, I've always been pretty health conscious of what I'm eating, but as far as once you get into this level of you're a producer and you see the benefits of what you're producing and giving to people, the same thing's probably occurring in other places, and those was vegetables or milk or you can name it, they're out there. Yeah, if I have a chance to purchase some of that stuff and add that to sure my diet, but my wife or my little girl's diets, yeah, I mean I'm gonna try to give them the best food I can give them. There's always something here or there you got to grab from Kroger or Walmart or whatever it is. I'm not saying I only shop at the farmers markets, but there's definitely times where hey man, I'm gonna eat beef, so I'm gonna pull some of my beef, or I'm gonna eat pork. We're gonna get some ribs or something. We're gonna try to do it right. So yeah, I mean, you're always aware of what other people are doing and trying to add that into your lifestyle.
For sure. I guess is there any if there was one thing that you could like let people know about like Falkner Farms and like your organization and how y'all run things, like what would it be? I guess if you had like a message you wanted to get out there.
Yeah, man, well, we're gonna do it right. You better believe we're gonna do it right, and we're gonna do what we say we're doing. I mean, if you want grass fed, grass finished, that's what you're gonna get. I mean, anything that we put out there to people, they can trust and rest assured that that's what they're getting. Because that's it in a nutshell of the food industry now. People just are leery of what they're really getting, or where did this come from, or is this really what it says it is. And for us to be a staple in that, I think it's something that we hang our hat on, man. That's just our identity.
I think maybe that can be your slogan. We do it right.
Yeah, we should.
I don't know. It's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah, we really do, man. We do what we say we're gonna do, and man, that holds weight, with yourself, with your own integrity, and just with the community. People are people, and so they want to know that they can trust what you're doing, and you want to feel secure that I'm doing what I'm saying I'm doing. And that right there builds a bond. And too, they might have questions of unfamiliarities or uncertainties, and you can tell them like, hey, this is probably what happened, or this is what this is, or try this or try that. So it's cool because you're honorable and you're just doing what you say you're doing, and so that's probably it.
Yeah, it's not a privilege you have when you walk into Walmart, the meat section.
Yeah.
It's like, where did this come from? How?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and it's cool, man. Again, it kind of goes back to what we talked about, just establishing relationships, and people learn you and they learn what you do, but then they learn your family and your background, and so it just goes deeper than the food.
Yeah.
So.
Well, did you have any burning questions?
Do you partner with any restaurants in Oxford?
We do. How about that? Yeah, we So our eggs, they've been in a lot of different places, and they have kind of been just the door opener for us, So I've been with, currently I'm with Grit down in Taylor, Tarask, and I guess that's it right now. Those two. Because right now all our orders are kind of getting filled through grocery stores, right? But before it was Ravine before they closed down, the Canteen before they closed down. We were with Sleepy Cactus for a little bit before orders were getting filled. Big Bad, the Beacon. Oh man, I hope I'm not leaving any off, but I think that's most of them. So we've worked with them, but currently, yes, John Stokes at Tarask, who does a great job. His food is really good. And then Grit down here in Taylor, Nick and Angie, they were our first restaurant, and so we've been with them, from the beginning. And beef, Tarask, Grit, they both have featured it. So yeah, the restaurant side is really unique. It's cool to walk into their kitchens and see how they run shop and talk to them, because obviously we're in two different realms with the common deal with the food in general, but just to see that side of stuff is different from your grocery stores and stuff like that. But yeah.
So it's like I would think it's a different process, because a lot of restaurants, it's a lot of fillets going out. Like Texas Roadhouse has a lot of like single cut steaks.
Yep.
When it comes to you guys, do they buy a whole cow, see what they can do with that, or did they try to get certain cuts?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Yeah, we've had them do both. It's been a whole cow before, and they've also. So with my problem with restaurants, right, as far as being able to supply them, is the amount of volume they require, like you mentioned. Eggs, I could do that because I had enough to go out. Beef has recently been, there's been summers where we do hamburgers or ground beef because that's what you're going to get the most of out of a cow. But a lot of times it's just like a showcase or a feature, just because I can't keep up with their demand. And so that's what we're looking to kind of get to. But yeah, I mean it's been both, and they will with the whole cow, they'll use anything and everything that they can and make it worth their while, and give it the consumers a chance to try something new with their twist on it. So yeah.
Yeah, you'll get there eventually, right?
Man,
We'll see. That'd have to be a lot of cows. So,
it's a lot
yeah.
of cows. But yeah, man. I mean, I've got goals in my mind of where I'd like to get to or what I'd like to stop at, and I would like to be able to supply 1 or 2 restaurants, and see how that goes. Just because I enjoy working with them so much. I mean, it's just like with eggs. I could speak on that because some weeks it's I need X or Y, or hey man, I'm low on eggs and I got brunch today. Can you run some down? And it's like, yeah, I got you, man. And so you just you bebop down there and take them what they need. So it's a different realm because they don't know what they're going to get. They have an idea, right? They're expecting, like Alabama this weekend's a prime example. Everybody is just preparing for something that's going to be huge, and I'm sure it will be. But they just have swings in weeks, and so your sales with them and stuff like that swings too. But yeah, it's a different deal. Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, I didn't think about that as far as like the seasons of the year. I imagine during the summer, maybe not as much for the restaurants, but when football's in season, that your orders are going up.
Yeah, it's wide open, and it's just like anything else, right? Like you're just trying to be there for people, and man, these people I've established relationships with. I call them with different questions, whether it be regarding this or that, or if they know somebody does this or that. It's just like they'll call, same type thing. Hey man, can you run me down something? Yeah, I got you. So yeah, all season.
Well, I don't have any more burning questions in this one. I think we can probably wrap it up there.
Cool, man.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, hit the stop button.
Go Okra.